So tell us what inspired this film, and then tell us where did this story come from?
Well, the film is called A Noble Intention, and in Holland it's called Public Works, Publieke Weaken. And Public Works in the Netherlands is a book which is written by Thomas Rosenboom, and he wrote it, or it's published in 2000. And so the story is partly made up, but the basic idea which the writer had was he walked every day past a hotel, a famous hotel in the Netherlands next to the central station in the heart of the city. And he noticed that there was this beautiful hotel, big hotel, with the two old houses in the middle of it.
Right.
And so he thought of the story how that could have been gone in those days, because the hotel is from 1885. And so he situated the story around these two houses and the hotel.
Right. Now, getting to the, what they were wearing back in 1888, the costume design for this film, it must have been such a wonderful thing to get back all those, the tradition and the culture of the Netherlands back in the day. Can you tell us about that process?
Well, it's the nice thing of my job is that every time I do a film, I make a story, and I really dig into, in this time, another era. And so I found out a lot about that era. For instance, it was the new time. Everything was happening at that time architecturally, because they invented steam engines.
Right.
So they could build, and even in Amsterdam, which is a very difficult city to build in because it's a kind of swamp, they could build big buildings.
Right.
So the whole city was kind of a big building area. And so you had two people, the new people, who were really sharp dressed,
right.
kind of Hugo Boss suits, and you had the older people who tend to be old-fashioned, and they more had very rococo, beautiful designed clothes, but completely different. And so there was, and it was a class community. So you could see at the how people were dressing, what kind of class they were.
Right.
And that was very nice to work with somebody who did the designing of the costumes, to really go in deep in what kind of characters do we have. And for instance, the guy who's the main character, he tends to be a kind of artist, but for that time he looked very old-fashioned.
Right, right.
So that's the nice things of those clothes. And if you make a film which is situated in 1885, everything what you do is fantasy and film.
Right.
So everything looks good. There's not a set which is not made by us. So I could really make a style in the film that I wanted.
Tell us a little bit about the casting process, and it seems like these are very great actors, and they had a lot of chemistry together.
It's
Tell
funny.
us a little about that.
Well, the two main actors, they play the nephews Vedder and Anijs, the violin maker and the chemist.
Pharmacist?
Pharmacist, sorry.
That's okay.
He has a chemistry. Okay, he is a pharmacist. They are nephews, but in real life they play for the same big theater company. And like Gijs, who's playing Vedder, he is very well known in the Netherlands for his voice and his appearance. And he plays a lot of Shakespeare, and I like him a lot because he's kind of a big character on stage, and you like to see him losing everything, but with grandeur.
Right.
And Jacob, the younger one, he's one of the biggest actors we have. He won 2 times in a row, last 2 years, the big theater prize in the Netherlands. So, it were the canon, the big names of the Dutch theater that I had in film.
Now, this is the type of film where I would actually see at a film festival such as this, or maybe a TIFF selection. How does a film like yours get to the younger generation? And because the generation now, they're there's Netflix and there's like this, the Cineplexes. They all push these big Hollywood movies. So how does a film like yours get to the younger generation, and then how do the younger generation get inspired by your film?
It's really difficult to get a younger generation to film like this because it's historical and it's not very fast told. And the book which is based on is mainly bought. It's well known in the Netherlands, but for another older generation. So most of our spectators in Holland were slightly older literature fans of the book. But we had the benefit that Netflix bought the film internationally.
Nice.
And so it's translated in, I think, 13 languages.
Nice.
And it's dubbed.
Right.
So in Chinese and in Spanish and in all kinds of languages, which is very nice because now all around the world people can see it.
Right.
And that's more easy than going in cinemas abroad, because a foreign film in Canada or in America would never make a big distribution, because they tend to have English spoken language here. So I'm really pleased that that they only bought 3 Dutch movies, and this is one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
For this festival, the European Union Film Festival, why do you feel that your film is important or relative to this type of festival?
Well, I think it's nice that it's a typical Dutch-made movie. It's Dutch-spoken, and the actors and most of the people who worked on it are Dutch. Although it's almost all shot in Hungary, and we had also a Belgian art director and a Belgian sound man on the film. So it's a kind of European thing, but it's a typical Dutch story. But I think it's a kind of international story, and it says something about how people went to America, and it also says something international about people who are anxious, seeing the time going very fast,
right,
and trying to be a person in that fast era in which 1885 was and 2016 still is.
Right, right. Now, I read an article. It was by director Paul Verhoeven. He's a Dutch director.
He's famous.
I believe he's famous.
Yeah.
And he spoke of the American market and PG-13, how that nobody's going to make a restricted movie anymore, but everybody's going to make a PG-13 now because it makes money.
That's true.
And can you comment a little bit about that? Because he is, of course, a Dutch director, and he's got the experience of American. Yeah.
Yeah. In the Netherlands, Paul Verhoeven used to be a filmmaker before he went to America, and he always had troubles with the Dutch film fund funding his highly commercial but also kind of controversial movies in the Netherlands. But he did, and he had a lot of spectators for his movies. And then he went to America, and he also over there had a big audience.
Right.
So he knows about both worlds. But what he thinks, and I think the same, is that it's really difficult to make a movie, even in the Netherlands, if you show a penis, for instance, in a movie, then you have a big problem.
Right.
Because then the distributor will always say, "Can you cut that out?" And because otherwise, half of the audience will not come.
Right.
And those kind of things are really difficult to do. So, and even I'm not an expert in making movies like that, but in this movie, there's things shown which I'm pretty sure would be very difficult to distribute in America.
So, for those who haven't seen the film, what should one expect when they go see A Noble Intention?
I think they will see. I hope an adventurous movie about with very good acting and beautiful sets, set in an era, and you go really back in time. And I tried to make the movie modern in shots and in music.
Absolutely.
So it's not slow and it's not old-fashioned, I think. So I hope people enjoy the modernity of the story that we told.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.